Hi, this is Shannon Pexton, and I am here to share with you my love of home health nursing. I worked at Utah Valley as an LPN for a year and a half. When I graduated BYU with my bachelor's in nursing, I went to work at Community Nursing Service, Home Health and Hospice as a case manager. I worked there full-time 3 years, part-time 2 years, and I have been PRN for the last 16 years. I've worked here as a BYU skills instructor for the last 6 years. The skills that I've developed in home health are a very wide range. I have great assessment skills. I was a little nervous at first where I was the only one in the home, but feel that my assessment skills really improved in home health. I have done a lot of wound care, diabetic care, phlebotomy and IV skills. We've done a lot of starts, infusions, portacasts, PICC lines. I've done hospice nursing, done pediatrics. We've had patients with long-term catheter care. We've done feeding tubes. These are just a few of the things that I've done in home health and feel where my skills have really improved. I also developed great communication skills. On a daily basis, we are in frequent contact with other disciplines such as physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech language pathologists, social workers, home health aides, physicians, family members, and chaplains. We get together and have case conferences to try to determine the best care for our clients. So my communication skills greatly improved. A typical day in home health is a little atypical. It depends on your client load. So you would have to look at your clients for the week and for the day to determine when you would start. If you have diabetics, we obviously need to see them morning, noon, and evening, but you can put those in within a couple of hours. If you have a patient that needs to be seen BID, you've got to time that. If you have 3 times a week you visit them, you can determine what days of the week. So we typically work like a 7 or 8 to about a 5 or 6, but we have time in between where there's kind of downtime. And that's where I love the flexibility in home health. It's really wonderful. I also loved that I could do charting and make phone calls at home around my own schedule. Oftentimes I would come home, be with my children, feed them dinner, get them to bed, and then I could do my charting. Some might say that having to do charting at home would be a downside, but I felt like that was a real benefit for my family. There were many rewards I feel that have come to me as a result of my choice of home health. Again, flexibility is great. I was able to run errands between visits and loosely make my own schedule. I loved that there were no 12 to 15-hour shifts, and it is not as hard on your body as floor nursing. Once I was part-time and PRN, I was able to schedule visits around my husband's work schedule and my parenting responsibilities. I was able to do visits in the evening when my husband was home or on the weekends. I could do visits around church. I would go in the morning to do diabetics, go to church, do some visits afterwards, so I felt the flexibility was great. I love to be a stay-at-home mom. That was my choice, and home health allowed me that flexibility to be at home without my children feeling like I was working. I was able to keep up my nursing license without feeling, again, like it was taking me away from my family. It strengthened many of my nursing skills because home health exposes you to a wide variety of diseases and diagnoses, and you are not pigeonholed into one specialty. There are many touching moments in home health. The thing that is most rewarding to me was the relationships I developed with these patients and their families. I was able to make a difference during a difficult time, especially with hospice care. And as I visited many of the older population, they imparted so much influence and wisdom on my life and the life of my children. Here's an example of a patient named Ruth and a picture of her and my children. I took care of her husband, Parley, for several years before he died and gained a relationship with both of them. And we continued to see Ruth just as a friend. I would take my kids over every week. She'd get out her toys, we'd visit, we'd have lunch, and it was just a joy to have her here. I took care of her as a patient also until she died. She knitted booties for my new baby, and my kids still remember seeing Ruth. Another example is a patient whose husband loved to bake. One time I went to see this patient, and he had baked something that just smelled really yummy, and he offered me a taste, which I loved. I then asked him for the recipe, and brought it home, made it for my family, and it has become one of the most favorite desserts of my family. And we call it Wiley treats. My kids say, Mom, can we make Wiley treats? So every time we do that, it reminds me of the great relationship I had with him and his wife. I could go on and on with the relationships I've gained with these patients, and that's one of the great benefits of home health, because we have long-term relationships. We don't just see them in the hospital for a few days and then discharge them. So I have loved home health as a career choice. If I had to do it over again, I would do the same thing. I'm really grateful for the knowledge, the relationships, the nursing skills, and the flexibility that home health has given me.